All right, let's go ahead and start. When this says Lorelei, I'm not sure whether this is Lorelei or Keith, but it doesn't matter. I think it's Keith. I'll assume so, since that's who addressed me first here under Lorelei. So, but anyway, the question says, you once said that you were in a restaurant, overheard a woman close by repeatedly exhibiting controlling behavior with her young son, like 27 times or something, like you counted. It was a bunch. Examples of her being unloving. It probably was that many times. She was amazing. When I see this clearly, especially in public, I feel an inclination to step in. Well, naturally. My question, when I don't, aren't I selling us both out? Don't I owe it to them, myself, the planet, to do what I can to show them another path? You are so sweet to think so. No. And that's because it's really nice to possess a valuable gem. It's really nice to possess the truth. That's precious. But if the person that you want to share it with doesn't want to hear it, to intrude and give it to them anyway is actually unkind. And the odds that in public, or in almost any situation where you're not being asked, that while somebody is exhibiting a getting and protecting behavior, the odds that they are willing to listen to you, especially to a stranger, the odds are so remote that for us to engage in a teaching moment is really unkind. The odds are horrible, and so for us to do it is stupid. I just can tell you from having dealt with people now thousands and thousands of times that under the best of circumstances, where people come to me and say, I want to change my life, and they describe their behaviors. People are hard to talk to. Very difficult to get people to see their getting and protecting behaviors. So if you're talking about somebody in public who, for example, is like berating their child, all right, they've already demonstrated to you, if they're berating their child, they've already made it very clear, absolutely guaranteed that they're empty and afraid. So they're empty and afraid, they're wrong, they're getting, they're protecting, they're doing the whole thing. Then you come in from the outside and you're going to tell somebody who's empty and afraid, even though you're going to try to do it nicely, you're wrong. Do you see that you're empty and afraid, you're wrong, you're being a bad parent, and you're hurting your child? The odds are so close to zero that that parent is going to be able to hear that in order to say something, you'd have to be like insane. No kidding. It's cool to have the truth, but you got to have somebody who's willing to hear it. An analogy. The principles of thermodynamics are fascinating. In fact, essential. The people who do engineering design are often very versed in thermodynamics. The people who understand air conditioning design understand thermodynamics. The people who do experiments in physics often understand thermodynamics. Very important principles. So we understand that those are true, that they're important, but if you sit there and give a lecture on thermodynamics to somebody who doesn't even understand basic math, what are you? You are a moron and unkind. Because to shove down somebody's throat undigested a full plastic bottle is actually going to be harmful. They can't take it. If they don't understand basic math, they're not going to be able to understand thermodynamics, which requires an understanding of basic math and requires an understanding of trigonometry, Calculus, it goes on and on. Physics, they couldn't take it. So if you take somebody who's empty and afraid, and they're berating their child, and they understand nothing of real love, and then you come in and attempt to correct them, you're going to make things worse. They're going to become more empty and afraid. They're going to lash out at you, and when you back out of the situation, they're going to turn around and take out their increased emptiness and fear on who? On the child. So you just made things worse. So it's not enough for us to say, well, but what I'm going to say is true, and what I'm going to say is needed. Oh, no, that's not even close to enough. Remember the 4 things that are needed before you speak to somebody about correcting them? What are they? Is it my business? Does it matter? Can I speak absolutely, unconditionally, lovingly? And is the other person capable of hearing it? You've got to be able to answer that last one, yes, or you get to shut up. Even though I know it's really unbelievably tempting, isn't it? Now, so what can you do? You extend yourself on the occasions when it looks like there's a teaching opportunity. And there are so many that we already miss. So why bother with the ones where people won't listen? When somebody's speaking to you, and saying, my wife, she's such a witch. Well, that person, that's not like somebody in public who's berating their child. That person just spoke to you. They just invited you to say something. So now, instead of, just listening to them act like a victim, now you say, yeah, I've learned that the people often do act pretty terrible when they don't feel loved. And the person who's talking to you is going to go, what? Suddenly, you're going to either discover that that person wants to continue to act like a victim, or they're going to say, I've never heard anybody answer like that. Tell me what you're talking about. Poof! You've got a listener and an opportunity to teach. You see what I'm saying? What you're doing is, instead of being eager to teach the principles, what you want to do is be looking for people who are willing to listen. It's a whole different approach. That's much more loving. See if that helps. Let me know if it doesn't. Follow up to last week. The question was about chatting with coworkers. People come by, you're sitting at work, and people just bug you. You're trying to get some work done, and they come in and they go blah, 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 blah about their, whatever. Kids, husband, vacation, their house, their dog, blah, blah. What if I really don't want to continue the conversation at another time? Because remember last time I said, look, I really do want to finish this. She said, how do I get out of it? Hang on, I have to press a little button here that's bugging me. There we go. She said, how do I get out of having the conversation? Oh, easily. Remember how I said, I know this is an important conversation to you. You can still say that. You don't have to say, I want to hear it. You tell the truth. You say, I know this is an important conversation to you. Can we finish this conversation at, and then you name a time that you know is incredibly inconvenient for them. Simple. You know that they never stay after work, for example, and you routinely stay till 5:30, and you say, I can't talk about it now. I'm going to be getting off work at 5:30. Can we finish it then? And they say, oh, I'm leaving work early. You go, oh, I'm going to be busy till 5:30. You just made it impossible. You see? I've done that many times. So then, see, you've put the decision into their court. You've made it their decision. What you've done is you've said, this is the price of finishing that conversation with me. And they've said, oh, well, shoot, I'm not willing to pay that price. Poof, there's no conversation. See how clever this is? But you're telling the truth instead of playing some little game with them. You just described the price, and they said, no. Here's a question. I attempted to ask this question last week when you were experiencing technical difficulties. That was awful, wasn't it? So here it is again. I'm committed to making lots of real love calls, but since I'm new at this, I'm not exactly sure how to begin the calls. That was a great question. I find myself picking up the phone but not experiencing any particular crisis. Knowing that the purpose is to tell the truth about myself, do I need to find something to talk about that may or may not be something that I'm upset about? Or should I maybe lay back a little bit and let the person I'm calling ask me some questions? Any help in how to actually make ongoing real love calls would be helpful. Yeah, this is very important. The difference between people who succeed in real love and those that don't are those that continually stay in contact with other people. And one of the biggest obstacles in staying in contact with other people is what you just described. How do you make the calls? It's the beginning. What's the difference between those who continue to play piano the rest of their life and those that don't? Those who make it through the first year's lessons. No kidding. Those who succeed in getting through the first bit of something until it becomes pleasurable and natural. So in the beginning, it's a real misconception that you call people when you're in a crisis or when you have something to talk about. If you do that, you're going to lose. Because then people are always going from crisis to crisis and they never grow. All you're doing is going from one panic to another. What if you only attended to your health when you had to go to an emergency room? Well, you'd be at death's door all the time. That'd be one of the possibilities. That's not the way to do it. Preventive health is the way to go. So don't wait till there's a crisis. You should be calling somebody every day, and you don't need a topic. So what do? Now, women find this easier because women, from the time they were little kids, from the time they were in the first grade, you look at little girls on the school ground. They'll be sitting around in little groups just going, blah, 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 blah. And then we went, blah, 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 and did you see her, blah, 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 and her dress, and blah, blah. Guys are playing ball. They're doing something. There was a study done several years ago, and I wish I'd kept it, but they had guys call their friends, not just random people, call people they knew. And if they called and just talked about nothing, it was less than a minute, the person on the other end of the phone, these are people they knew, would go, so how can I help you? Men can't stand being on the phone with somebody without there being a stated purpose. You have to call a guy and go, okay, the purpose of this call is A, B. You got to have a reason. So guys have a harder time calling for no reason. Guys usually ask this question that Alan just asked. Women don't ask it as often. So what do? You call up another guy and you just say, I can give you 100 different ways to start a call. Let's give you a few. Hey, this is Alan. I just called because I felt like I needed to connect. When you're calling somebody who's been having any kind of experience with real love, they'll take it from there. That's all they need. Because they know the real purpose of your call is what? To get loved. They know that. They'll help you. They'll go, tell me about your week. Tell me about something you did this week where you felt good, or something where you felt bad, or blah, 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 blah. They'll have you talking about something where you were feeling loving or not loving, or where you were feeling empty or afraid, or getting a protecting behavior. They'll have you doing something in no time. They know that the purpose of the call is that you end up feeling loved. That's all they care about. There's no formula. There's no right way to do it. That's why when I got on radio shows, hosts love to say to me, okay, so what's the formula? What are the tricks to your approach? There aren't tricks. There isn't a formula. No. What are the tricks? There aren't any tricks, really. So when you make your phone calls, you have to remember there aren't any tricks. You say, well, okay, so I just called because I felt like I needed to connect. If you're really stumped, you just say, I called because I was reading that, that calling is a good thing to do. There. After you've been calling for a while, people who are experienced in real love, I got a call just the other day from a guy who's been in real love for, 5-6 years, and he called and said, hey, I need some love. We don't goof around anymore because we know why we're calling. So why should I call and go, blah, 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 until I get around to, oh, well, thanks, I was really calling so I'd feel loved. We both know that's the reason, so we just get right to it. So I called so I could connect. I called because I thought I ought to. I called because I was just, I don't know, feeling a little alone. You can call an experienced wise man and just say, hello, it's Greg. Help me. Help me finish that sentence. Or hello, you can just go, grunt. He'll finish it for you. You don't need to know nothing when you're talking to somebody who has any experience at all. If you're talking to somebody who's less experienced, then you use the first sentence I said. I just called so I could feel a little bit more connected, which is the same thing as saying I called because I needed to feel loved. This ain't rocket science, huh? Let's see. John was just saying that he got into the conversation when I was talking about thermodynamics, which is great for a chemical engineer. He was sorry that he was late for that. I'm not sorry because I was probably saying it all wrong. I said it before you got here so that you couldn't criticize my analysis with thermodynamics. For those of you who don't know, thermodynamics is a difficult subject. Oh, well, since John's here, he sent me an email. Where is it? He sent me an email about his wife. Where is it? Oh, that's annoying. John, resend it to me. I have it. Well, John will send it to me, and I'll see if I can pull it up during our discussion, because I've got it somewhere. And I'm going to read somebody else's question while he does that. Well, that's annoying. I saved it all week long so I could read it, and now it's not here. Which means it's here somewhere, and I lost it, and I don't know. Getting older and not smarter, apparently. Oh, well. So John's going to look for it and send it to me. John just sent it because John is smarter than I am. And as you know, sometimes things don't get here as quick as you want. No, didn't get here yet. So let me read another question. Here's a lady who says, how do I offer help from a real love perspective? I don't want to control or interfere. That's always a deadly clue that we often do want to control or interfere. As I understand, that is serving only my own needs, and that is selfish and controlling. And yet, I guess that's what I am trying to do. As it has been a problem from my past behavior. Good call, kid. My daughter's boyfriend seems to be very afraid and empty because he seems to always try to defend himself by lying and deceiving those around him. Common behavior. I'm not happy how my daughter is having to take the consequences of his actions so regularly, causing unnecessary stress. Understandable. So if she is his partner and he's lying and using whatever other getting or protecting behaviors, natural that she's having to suffer the consequences of his behavior. I want to protect her. Understandable that a mother would want to do that. And since she's now out of the house and in her 20s, you don't get to protect her. That's a really hard thing to get across to a mother, like painfully difficult. You can't protect her anymore. Now, it doesn't mean you can't do nothing, but we're going to get to that. I want to protect her, which is me violating the law of choice. Very smart. And not the way to handle it. Brilliant. They seem to trade imitation love. Yeah, I bet they do. And I don't know if it's wiser to leave well alone or if I can help by presenting a clearer picture of events from a real life perspective. I am afraid for her. Understandable. They're both young adults now, and I realize that maybe it is none of my business. Is it possible to love and teach at this stage? Ooh, you're so wise. Okay, so she's your daughter. So is it your business? Yeah, it's your business to love her. Is it your business to teach her? Yes. Is it your business to teach her past the point where she wants to hear? No. So this is tricky. Love her always. Never give up trying to love her. But you don't get to have any expectations about what she does. So this is a tricky thing. So let's say that, for example, her boyfriend does stuff and she says, "Oh, Mom," and we'll call her boyfriend Fred. Fred is always blah, blah, blah. As soon as she talks about Fred, she just made it your business. You see that? Now, that doesn't give you the right to jump in with both feet and shove it down her throat. No. But as soon as she complains about him, you can say, "Have you ever wondered why he does that?" And then you can describe to her why he behaves as he does. Then if she's still listening, and it ain't hard to tell if somebody's listening, because they're looking at you and they're doing this. Whereas if they're squirming and going, and arguing with you, they're done listening. This isn't complicated. It's hysterical later to hear ourselves or to hear other people say, but I thought he was listening. No, he wasn't. I mean, they're fighting, arguing, and backing out the door, and we thought they were listening. So if she's still listening to you, and it's clear you don't have an agenda, and you're not pushing her, she's going to listen a lot longer, too. So, you say, here's why he does what he does, and would you be interested in knowing some ways you could respond to that? Up to you. I have no agenda. It's your pick. Amazing how much longer people want to listen when you don't have an agenda. Whereas if you say, now, I've noticed that your boyfriend does this, and here's what you need to do, she's not going to want to hear another word you say. Now, that was the scenario if she comes and complains to you. What if she doesn't? What if she's just lapping up this abuse? You might say to her, "So how are things going between you and Fred?" I can't remember. Is that what I called him? And she says, "Well, okay." Because if things really stink between her and Fred, even if they stink, it's very common for people to defend their partner. Now, why do they do that? One of the reasons is this. Let's say that you just spent $40,000 buying a new car. And you've been looking forward to it for a long time. And the car just didn't turn out to be quite what you thought. I mean, it doesn't run quite as well. It's not quite as quiet. It's not quite as problem-free. It's not, But you've spent $40,000 on this, maybe not quite a lemon, but, less than perfect car. And then somebody says to you, "So, how's your car?" "Well, you just spent $40,000 on this car." What do you think you're going to say? You're not going to say, "Wow, it really stinks." You're going to have a tendency to defend what you're invested in. And people tend to do that in relationships too. So, you ask your daughter, "So how are things between you and Fred?" "Well, not so bad," even if they're really terrible. Now, if she says that, you can go a little further. You really can, as long as you're not intrusive and you don't have an agenda. And you can say, "Well, sometimes it looks like things are tense between you." No agenda. At that point, it's real likely that she'll say, "Well, sometimes things are. So, if you'd like, I'd be happy to listen." Not, "I'd be happy to fix it." I'd be happy to listen. You're just giving her an opportunity to talk to you, see? An opportunity to love her and teach her. And then again, you have an opportunity to talk to her about real love. But if she says, "Well, no, things are fine, just leave it," then maybe in another month of her suffering, you bring it up in the same way, and you'll have another opportunity to love her and teach her. So you tell her as much as she's willing to hear. If you try to teach her more than she's willing to hear, you're dead, and so's she, and she's not going to listen to you for a whole lot longer. So that's one thing to consider. You're patient and loving, she'll listen to you a lot better. Still haven't gotten John's email yet, so we'll keep going for a second. Maria has a bunch of questions, but she's temporarily, it says, suffering from Alzheimer's. Alan says, I want to start a real love group. It will be made up entirely of newbies, no real wise people at the start. Should the meeting take primarily an educational tone, or should we attempt to get each other to share incidents in our lives that we need to tell the truth about? If we do that, what suggestions do you have for what we might use to help each other? I'm thinking that pulling out the pearl cards would be helpful. What other help could you use to offer here? I would suggest that you be familiar with the book Real Love for Wise Men and Women. It will tell you how to run a group beginning to end. And then for a new group, I would suggest that you do something like bring the video of the Essentials of Real Love in there. Play the video. Play anywhere in the video. Play 5-10 minutes at most of the video, at most, and then pick some segment, pick the corresponding section of the Essentials of Real Love workbook from the video, and work some exercises out of it, because that's what the workbook does. It says, so you'll see something out of the video, and then you'll go, okay, now tell some examples in your life when you, and it'll do something out of the. Now don't do it randomly. Think of something before the group arrives. Go, gosh, that would be a good little exercise, and then you read something out of the workbook that promotes people telling the truth about themselves. And then you go first. Say, okay, it says, give an example in your life where you've acted like a victim. And you go, oh, man, I can give you an example of that. I mean, no, yesterday this has happened, and I blah, 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 blah. So you start off the group with a little bit of instruction. See, the video. You read a little bit out of the workbook, and then poof, you tell a little bit of the truth about yourself. You say, would anybody else like to provide an example? Or is there anything else anybody else would like to talk about? See, so the workbook, the video, it's just a way to get things going. It provides like a little bit of structure to start things. There are so many ways to run a group. The book Real Love for Wise Men and Women will give you a bunch of ways. You can use the Essentials of Real Love workbook as one way. But use structure only just to get things moving. If somebody's, for example, if the question's about victimhood and somebody wants to talk about anger instead, don't stop them and say, we're talking about victimhood, moron. No, it's just a way to get things going. Actually, John, just type right there, type me your email address, and I can find it easier than you can retype it. Just type your email address right there, and I can find the darn thing, because I know it's somewhere. I was just kind of dense to lose it. Ah, gee, Sue, you're up in the middle of the night. Ongoing from Fred, my daughter. Let's see. I think this is the one. Yes, yes. I got to admire Sue. She's in a time zone from the other side of the world. Would it be wise? This is about her daughter who's with the boyfriend who is lying and all that stuff. Would it be wise to attempt to love and teach Fred? And how could I go about that? Or is it best left with nothing said? I would do with Fred exactly what you do with your daughter. But it's got to be done in a non-intrusive way. So you could say to him, so how are things with you two? And if he goes, all right, I guess, because guys tend to do that. Then you say, well, so it sounds like there's a little hesitation there. Because if he says, all right, I guess, he's telling you they're not all right. Clear? You say, sounds like there's some reservations. Anything you want to talk about? And if he does, he will. And if he doesn't, he won't. He'll make it pretty clear. Just give people a chance to talk. Most people will if you give them a chance without pushing them. Whereas if you push them, they'll shut up. Here's some people saying, so address something that they sent a long time ago. I'm kind of stupid, so I lose stuff. If you just send it, I do have Outlook. If you just resend it, that's why I telling people that if you send me something during the week, right before, like the day or two before we're going to do something, I do a lot better than if you ask me to keep it for a while, because I have so much stuff, I just lose stuff. And I'm not blaming the stuff, I just dumb. I have to manage so many emails that I go, and sometimes I lose stuff I meant to keep, which is my fault. Oops. Here we are. Here's a message, a resend. On thinking about my question about examples of passive aggression and attacking, blah, blah, blah. Here are some examples. I inquire about, she's describing about some examples with her ex-husband. I'm remembering this now. So she'll ask about an issue or a problem, and he'll turn it around to make the issue about me. Duh, he doesn't want to address the issue, he wants to blame you. For example, he didn't pay money that he agreed to pay toward extracurricular activities for the kids. So Melissa will say, so what about that money that you were going to pay for the extracurricular activities for the kids? And he says that I'm dinging him and being a Jew bag. I'm sure the Jews love to hear that. And basically that I'm tight and I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. And he's using the tone of voice and sighing and frustrating and, then bringing up past mistakes and all that crap. Now, see, this is very classic. See, this is all, he's doing a combination of victim and attacking. So you're bringing up something where he was wrong because he committed to do a thing and he didn't do a thing. And rather than say, oh, my mistake, I was wrong. You think he's going to do that? I mean, did he ever do that when you were married to him? Well, he's not going to do it now. So he's going to blame you. I mean, duh. So what are you going to do? You got to look at this from several aspects. One, part of you kind of wants to change him. I mean, you want him to see his mistake, which is why you bring it up in this way. You say, now, Do you remember how you promised to get money for the kids' extracurricular? Do you see my point? What you're saying is you were irresponsible and wrong. You're making him wrong. He hates that. What you really want to do is get the money for the kids' extracurricular activities, right? So what you really need to do is you need to bring it up as though you had not brought it up before. Now, look, I know you didn't mean to. I know you didn't consciously go into the conversation going, I'm going to get him. But you did. And that's how he takes it. So when you go in saying to any conversation with anybody saying, do you remember how the only thing they hear is you were wrong. And they're going to start fighting you. All of you who are listening, think back on the many conversations you've had with people where you started off with, do you remember when you said, ask yourself, how many of those conversations went well? People don't dig being told they're wrong. They hate it. Or how about conversations that start, that in the middle of the conversation you say this, but you said, oh, you're screwed. Because you just told them that they lied. People don't like being reminded of their mistakes. They hate it. So, shut up. Even though they're wrong, even if they lied, even if they're irresponsible. So, you go to your ex-husband, even though you've brought this subject up before, and you say, the kids need some money for, I don't think I even knew, soccer. They need $59.62, and they need it by Thursday. One thing you have to do with irresponsible people, you have to be freaking specific. So, the kids need blah, blah, this amount by Thursday, and it needs to be delivered to blank in $20 bills at this address you have to do all that for them. And they say, okay. And then you say, will you call me then on Wednesday to be sure that it's done? You have to really be that specific. Then on Wednesday, if it's not there, then you call them to say, the kids will need $59 by Thursday. Can you help me out with that? You don't remind them like you were calling for the first time. And then they go, and then you give them the chance to say, oh yeah, I promised you I'd have that done. Do you know how much more fun it is for them to be the ones that go, oh yeah, I promised you, versus you being the one to nag them, to be the Jew bag, to be the tight one, do you know how much more fun it is to have them say it instead of you? It's way funner. So it's often the way we approach them. That will help. You have to go into this with no interest in making him wrong. And it really helps. It helps a lot. Now, what if he does come at you with, well, you're just tight, you're always trying to make me wrong, and okay, now that you've already blown it, and he does all that, and you say, you know, I've handled conversations with you in the past, up to this moment, now, so stupidly, I can hardly stand it. So I apologize for that. And it's interfered with our relationship. I'm sure it contributed hugely to our divorce. And I hope that it won't continue to interfere with what the kids get. Can you help me with this $59.62? You move back to the subject. There. You just go, you're right. Now, back to the $59.62. And he goes, and you're a whore and a horrible person. Yeah, I am. And now, $59.62. See? You're done. Instead of having a conversation now about you being a terrible person. No. Now the conversation is $59.62 by Thursday. That's the subject. You're letting him change the subject. Making sense? Here's Cheryl says, I attacked a teenager. I don't know if it's your teenager. I don't know which Cheryl this is. I attacked a teenager by scolding him today at the market when he reached into the bulk bin. It's got to be her teenager. Wouldn't attack a random teenager. Well, maybe she might. I don't know. It makes a difference whose teenager it is. By a teenager by scolding him today at the market when he reached into the bulk bin for a handful of malted milk balls. Why can't I just keep my big mouth shut? Now, here's Cheryl here. It's going to tell me whose kid this was. Ah, he was a stranger. Okay. Now, Cheryl, I got to tell you that if somebody's stealing, I can't resist saying anything either. If somebody is stealing, I will do this. If somebody reaches into the bulk bin, I will say something because they are breaking the law. Now, here's what I will say. I will say, and I've done this before, in public, I will not correct somebody who's, berating their children. But if they're breaking the law, I will. So they're reaching into the bulk bin, and because it's affecting my food prices, so it is my business. And so I will say, are those yours? Now, if they're scooping them into a bag, obviously it's none of my business. But if they're putting them in their mouth, clearly they're not paying for them. How do I know this? Because they didn't weigh themselves before they came into the store, and I know they're not going to weigh themselves going out, so they're not going to pay for it on the way out. So I know they're stealing. Are those yours? Then, and if you do it with no accusation, they're going to look at you like, because I've watched them do it. If you're angry, they'll defend themselves. But I've watched surly teenagers come to a complete stop when you do it with that approach. Are those yours? Well, I was just, oh, I know you were just. So you have a choice. You have several choices. You can stop. You can continue to eat them, at which point now the forks in the road go like this. Now then, you can report yourself to the store manager, or I will. How do you want to go? And then they stop. And there's no anger. And I've actually had them go, all right, and they quit and move on. So, kind of fun, actually, dealing with people in not an angry way. Here's John saying, funny about changing the subject. My 3-year-old is already a professional at that. Oh, yeah. Oh, people do love to change the subject because now they don't have to deal with themselves. And you see it all the time. You're doing something wrong. Well, you do it too. Maybe. And we'll get to that in a minute, but I was talking about you. My 3-year-old is a professional, and I'm the one that forgets that we're talking about the $59, and he knows it, so he keeps doing it. Yes! That's right. Okay, we need to go take a bath. And then the kid starts off on something else, and before long, you've forgotten that you were originally talking about a bath or whatever else it is. No, remember the rules of seeing. There's one speaker at a time. And sometimes we forget that the rule applies for us. Sometimes we are the speaker. But occasionally, the other person's the speaker. But like if you bring up the subject of the kids and then the other person goes blah, 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 let them be the speaker temporarily. Well, okay, yeah, I'm a whore and a horrible person and blah, blah, blah. Okay, now, we've dealt with you being the speaker temporarily. It's kind of a little sidebar. Now, back to me being the speaker. $59.62. See? You talk about one subject at a time. You can't do two. But it is okay to occasionally stop, deal with one, seal it up, move on, and go back to the original subject, which you got to finish. Here we are. Thank you, John, for being patient with me losing your email, which is inexcusably rude. I had no idea what I did with it. I saved it all week long. I even remembered most of it, but I didn't want to give it a shot. It had to do with singing my sunshine or something, and then I lost it. Our son's third birthday was Sunday. My ex-wife and I spent almost the entire day with our son. At the end of the day, around 8 o'clock, I was dropped off at my house while our son went home with Mommy. The CD she had on was playing You Are My Sunshine. Yeah, I remembered that. You all know that song? You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. I love that song. It's very old, by the way. I sent her an email that night asking her if she knew what the song was about. Oh, I really hope you aren't trying to teach her something here. Just in case she did not, I sent her the lyrics. I hope this isn't going to end as badly as I think. I only read the first part of your email earlier. The song is about a person who loses his love to another. That is why he's always asking, please don't take my sunshine away. I told her that it completely drained me emotionally. Way to go, John. She replied with the email below. She said, I appreciate the courage it takes to tell me I'm happy for you on this path. No one else could come between, but now you've left me and another. The another is myself. The only person in the world who really saw my drowning was me. I pushed it aside many times and finally helped myself. Thanks so much for Connor's fun birthday. I think he had a great time, and I enjoyed being with you, too. He's a wonderful child, and that's because of us. Love, Annie. In other words, she kind of just ignored his email. I see her as taking your leave the pig. By the way, John, did you see her email as pretty much ignoring yours? Because it did. I see her as taking your leave the pig as a way of justifying her actions. It did. She did. But I see it as running, and yes, she did. And I want to tell her that is what she's doing. Yes, you really do. I have pointed out my truth to her many times, but I've also tried to point out some of her getting and protecting behaviors. I want to help her find happiness, but I just do not know what to do. Is there a seminar in Florida in July? Maybe I should remind her of that. John, you are such a nice human being. There is a great big part of you that really wants to help your wife be happy. There really is. And there's a significant part of you that wants her to get how much she hurt you by running away. And you really got to remember the part that we talked about in the very beginning, which is that you can only teach people as much as they want to hear. And she didn't want to hear it. She didn't want to hear it from you. I tried to tell her. She didn't want to hear it from me. Did she? None. At this point, she doesn't want to hear it. I volunteered to talk to her anytime she wanted. No. Instead, she wanted to put hands over her ears and sing, You Are My Sunshine, and not understanding the meaning of the words. You see? You wanted to teach her what the words meant. She didn't want to hear that either, what the song meant. She doesn't want to learn more. So you can't make her. And if somebody doesn't want to get it, they're done. Now, at some point in the future, as you become more loving, as you become a better human being, as you become a better father, maybe you'll become an avenue for her learning more. Maybe. But some people don't ever want to learn more. Who knows? But all you can really be is an example. But probably not her teacher. Probably never. I can tell you from personal experience that there have been a number of people in my life that I'll never be able to teach anything to. That's the way it goes. Here's somebody who says, Greg, I'm empty, afraid, and acting like a victim. So, like a lot of us. I got frustrated in a meeting at work yesterday. A director in our department, not my boss, talks in a condescending way to everyone. But I chose to react to him in the meeting. In the process, I told all the other directors and a VP that I had the big picture on this topic, and they really didn't know anything about it. I'll bet that went over well. good communication skills applied there. My boss told me I may have had something to say, but it was all lost in the delivery. Yep, I felt like a victim, even though I attacked everyone else in the meeting. Right now, I feel like a pretty big idiot. Well, that's an excellent start. You are a big idiot, and we love you. You know, when we are empty and afraid, we do very foolish things. It was very understandable what you did. So here you are in a meeting. You know more than everybody else about this particular subject. We got that. We know that. And the fool who spoke condescendingly to you was an idiot. These are just the, as they would say in a courtroom, the facts of the case. And they are undisputed. So you're the expert, and the fool is not the expert. The fool should have listened. But the fool was empty and afraid and needed to look big. So the fool speaks to you condescendingly to get a feeling of power. What can you do about that? That's going to happen no matter what you do. And if you attempt to control the fool, now what are you doing? The fool is playing entirely on the field of death. The instant you step onto the field of death with the fool, no matter how brilliantly you play, even if you reach out and you pull the World Wrestling Foundation move of the year and slam him to the ground in front of everybody, bloody his nose, pin him, and make him look like a wretched moron, you still lose, which is apparently what happened. No matter how well you play on the field of death, you die. That's the problem with the field of death. You're dead. So you lost, even though you were probably pretty clever in what you said. You can't play on the field of death. You have to listen. And so here you are, the expert, and the moron speaks condescendingly. So let's say that the moron says, well, blah, 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 but blah, blah, I think, and he says something stupid. So you're saying, I'm going to make this up. You know, so in marketing, you know, we need to do this and this with this particular group. And the moron says, well, maybe we should be selling snow cones to the Eskimos, which is stupid. And you say, you know, we hadn't thought of that particular group. And in forgetting about them, we could be losing as many dollars as blank, blank, blank. You're acknowledging what he said. He's going to be feeling like he was heard. In other words, all you're doing is spending 3 sentences of listening to him, which is loving him. It doesn't mean you have to do anything with it. It doesn't mean you have to alter your project. It doesn't make you look stupid. It actually makes you look pretty brilliant, that you're willing to listen to anybody, that you have the self-confidence, that you have the presence of mind, that you're loving enough, that you're not threatened by anybody. And then he'll be done. When people feel loved, they're finished. Whereas when you fight them, they come back and fight you another day. Now, you couldn't have done that at the time because you felt empty and afraid. But now you know a little bit more. And even though you were, like you said, an idiot at the time, you feel, not only you know a little bit more, but you feel loved while you did an idiot thing, like all of us do. And so with a little more knowledge and a little more love, the next time something like that happens, you will be a little less likely to repeat it. You know, that's all we could possibly hope for in life. So, way to go. How cool. You want to make it a whole lot less likely, go to the website. We just finished Real Love in the Workplace, and it'll give you 100 other examples of how to deal with stuff like that. But very nice example. And a nice example of telling the truth about you, which takes real guts. It really makes you the hero of the story. Nice, real nice story, nice example. Thank you. And it looks like we are at 3 minutes till. So please, again, during the week, if you have questions, email them to me. The questions we had today were like superior. I just got a couple questions here at the end. Jonathan, would you copy those for me?
Why don't you go ahead and answer Cheryl?
Cheryl said, can you share what you say to a new person about real love in the workplace in a sentence or two? Sure, easy. The most critical asset to any company should be obvious. It's people. Nothing gets produced. Companies don't succeed because of PE ratios, but all the important business what are the numbers? Figures, darn it, indices are produced by human beings. Human beings really are the most important asset of any business. And the single most important need of every human being is what? Everybody who goes to movies, everybody who reads books, everybody who reads magazines knows that what human beings want more than anything else is to feel loved. The Beatles knew this. So, the most important asset in any business is human beings. What every human being wants more than anything else is to feel cared for, to feel loved. So, the most important subject that should be on the mind of every manager in every business, therefore, has to be love. We have to care for the people who are around us in business, which means we have to care for our coworkers, our direct reports, our managers, our customers, our vendors, everybody. Real love is the primary thing that's going to carry us into the next decades. It's going to be the thing that's going to set apart those who succeed in business. And as you read Real Love in the workplace, you're going to see that there are already some companies who understand that. And those are the ones who are the superstars in business already. Real Love in the Workplace is going to teach the rest of us how to implement these principles and how to succeed economically and emotionally and job satisfaction-wise in the workplace. So look forward to you guys reading that and having a good time with it. Jonathan, if you have any other questions that are left over, we're going to cover those next time. Really enjoyed having Sue here from another planet in the middle of the night. And we'll see you next Tuesday. In the meantime, it's all about real love.